All right, welcome back. We're diving into Mazagon Dock Shipbuilders Limited today, MDL for short. You sent over some notes. Looks like they're from an investor call, maybe a presentation. And wow, the numbers paint quite a picture, don't they? But we're going deeper than just the financials today, right? We want to understand what drives this company, their plans, their projects, and what it all means for India's ambitions, especially when it comes to their Navy.
You're spot on. MDL isn't just another shipyard churning out boats, warships, submarines, mainly for the Indian Navy. They're a vital piece of India's defense strategy.
Right, so they're building up the Indian Navy's strength, basically, and doing it really efficiently, too. That 32% profit margin in Q2 of fiscal year 25, that's impressive. Industry average is what, 12 to 15%?
Around there, yeah. That gap tells us something. MDL knows what they're doing. They understand their market. And it's not just about building ships. It's about doing it well, profitably, strategically.
Exactly. So let's look closer at their projects. What are they building that's driving these numbers?
Well, mostly it's for the Indian Navy. That's their bread and butter, so to speak. They're finishing up the P-75 Scorpene submarine project. Sixth and final sub is due by year's end. That's big. Another stealthy sub for India's fleet.
Right. And the Project 15 Bravo destroyers, too. Fourth and final one also delivering by year end. So by the time folks are listening to this, those ships could already be out there, boosting India's naval presence.
Absolutely. And MDL is known for hitting their deadlines, which is important in this business. They're also working on the Project 17 Alpha frigates. First one should be delivered by year's end as well. That's a multi-year project, though. So we'll see those frigates joining the fleet over the next few years.
Okay, so subs, destroyers, frigates, they're covering a wide range of naval vessels. But your notes mention some other interesting projects, too.
Yeah.
Next generation corvettes, more destroyers, even more submarines.
Yeah, they've got a full plate, that's for sure. What I found interesting is the mention of retrofitting existing submarines with air-independent propulsion. AIP. Let subs stay submerged much longer. Boost their stealth and range considerably. Shows MDL isn't just building ships, they're enhancing capabilities with cutting-edge tech.
Right, that AIP is a game changer, especially if you think about potential conflicts underwater or intelligence gathering, that kind of thing. The longer you can stay hidden, the better.
Precisely, and that attention to detail, the focus on advanced tech, it might be part of why their profit margin is so high.
Good point. It's not just quantity, it's quality and being technologically ahead. But they're not just doing defense contracts, are they? They're going into non-defense markets, too.
You're right. They've got orders from ONGC for offshore projects. That's India's biggest oil and gas company. And they're doing work for the Indian Coast Guard, diversifying, maybe to spread the risk and tap into new revenue.
Interesting. They build this reputation for efficiency and tech within the defense sector. And now they're taking that expertise elsewhere.
Exactly. And speaking of expanding, they've got their first international export order, just one for now. But it's a signal. They want to be a global player in shipbuilding.
That's bold. The global market is tough. What kind of ships are they looking to export?
Well, they're interested in green shipping, especially targeting Europe. So not just warships. They're looking at the growing demand for sustainable and eco-friendly solutions in the maritime industry. Seems like a smart move. Green shipping is more than just a trend. It's a big sector with a lot of potential. If MDL can become a leader in that space, especially in a market like Europe, it could open up major opportunities for them.
Makes sense. But breaking into Europe is tough. Lots of competition there. What makes them think they can do it?
Well, their track record with the Indian Navy speaks volumes. They consistently deliver quality vessels on time and within budget. That's a big selling point. And their focus on advanced tech like AIP shows they're not afraid to innovate. They push boundaries.
Right, that innovation could give them an edge, especially in a market that's increasingly focused on sustainability and efficiency. But let's be honest, their reliance on the Indian Navy, it's great they have a reliable customer. But isn't that also risky? What if defense spending changes or priorities shift?
It's a valid concern. Any company that depends heavily on one customer is vulnerable. But MDL isn't ignoring this. Expanding into other markets, pushing for international exports, shows they're trying to diversify their income.
Hedging their bets, basically. Trying to build a portfolio that's not entirely dependent on the Indian Navy's decisions. Smart strategy, but it's got its own challenges, I'm sure.
Definitely. Expanding into new markets, especially internationally, requires a lot of investment. And you need to really understand the local situation, cultural differences, competition. There are hurdles to overcome.
Sounds like they're aiming for serious growth. But do they have the resources for it?
Well, they are investing a significant amount, about 5,000 crore Indian rupees, to expand their capacity. 2 new facilities, one for shipbuilding and ship repair right next to their existing yard, and a much bigger one near Nabasheva. They should be operational in 4 to 5 years. Shows they're thinking long term.
That's a big investment, especially in the current global economy. Shows they're confident in their future. But expanding capacity is only part of it. Do they have the workforce to match this ambition?
That's the other key piece. Shipbuilding needs highly skilled workers. Engineers, designers, welders, electricians, you name it. MDL has a good history of training their employees. But they'll need to keep investing in that to keep up with their growth plans.
Right, it's not just about ships, it's about the people who build them. And there's the geopolitical side of all this, too. A bigger, more technologically advanced MDL means a more powerful Indian Navy. What does that mean for India's role in the region and globally?
That's where things get really interesting. India has been steadily building up its naval capabilities. MDL's growth is a reflection of that. A stronger navy lets India project power, protect its maritime interests, and play a bigger role in regional and global affairs.
It's like MDL's success is tied to India's aspirations as a rising power. They're not just building ships, they're building a symbol of India's growing strength at sea.
Exactly. And that symbolism goes beyond military might. Remember their focus on green shipping. That aligns with India's commitment to sustainable development. They want to be seen as a responsible global player.
So it's not just ships, it's a narrative they're building. A technologically advanced, environmentally conscious India, ready to take its place on the world stage. That's a powerful message.
It is, and it raises questions. How will this naval strength be used? Will it lead to more stability or more tension in the region? What role will India play in shaping the future of the global maritime industry?
Big questions. And I doubt the answers will be simple. But one thing's for sure, MDL is a company to watch. They're not just building ships, they're building the future.
Well said. And it's a future full of potential, but also uncertainty. How they navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead will have a major impact, not just on their own success, but on India's future as well.
This has been incredibly insightful. We started with MDL's financials and projects, and we ended up talking about geopolitics and India's rising influence. Amazing how those pieces fit together to show the bigger picture.
It is, isn't it? The key takeaway for our listener is this. Keep an eye on MDL. Their story is a glimpse into India's ambitions and the potential shifts in global power. It's a story that's still being written. The next few years will be crucial in determining what role India will play on the world stage.
Well said. A lot to think about. It reminds us that business, technology, and geopolitics are all connected. And understanding those connections is key to navigating our complex world. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey. We'll see you on our next deep dive, where we'll uncover more hidden connections and explore new frontiers of knowledge.
Yeah, it really is a smart move. Green shipping, it's not just a trendy term, it's a whole sector. And it's got huge potential. If MDL can kind of position themselves as a leader there, especially in a place like Europe, it could be massive for them.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But Europe's not easy to crack. Lots of competition. What makes them think they can stand out?
Their work with the Indian Navy is a good starting point. Consistent delivery, high quality, on time, on budget, that's a strong argument. And their use of advanced tech, like that AIP we talked about, shows they're willing to innovate, not afraid to push the boundaries.
Yeah, true. Innovation is key, especially when you're talking about a market that's all about sustainability and efficiency these days. But God, this reliance on the Indian Navy, it's a good thing, a steady customer. But could it also be a weakness? What happens if defense spending changes or their priorities shift?
Yeah, it's a risk for sure. Any company that depends so much on one customer, they're vulnerable to changes. But MDL, I think they're aware of this. That's why they're branching out. Non-defense markets, international exports, trying to diversify their revenue.
Spreading the risk, not putting all their eggs in one basket. Smart, but I imagine it comes with its own set of headaches.
Oh, definitely. New markets, especially overseas, it takes a lot of investment. You need to understand the landscape, the culture, the competition. There are challenges for sure.
So they're aiming for some pretty ambitious growth then. Do they actually have the resources to pull it off?
Well, they're putting their money where their mouth is. Investing a good chunk of change, something like 5,000 crore Indian rupees, all to expand their capacity. They're building 2 new facilities. One's for shipbuilding and ship repair. It'll be right next to their current yard. And the other one, much bigger, near Nabasheva, should be up and running in 4 to 5 years. Definitely a long-term vision.
Wow, that's a serious investment, especially given the global economic situation right now. Shows they're feeling pretty good about the future.
Yeah.
But you need more than just facilities. Do they have the people, the workforce, to match this growth?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Shipbuilding, it demands a highly skilled workforce. You need engineers, designers, welders, electricians, the whole gamut. Now, MDL, they've got a good track record of training their employees.
Yeah.
But to keep pace with this growth, they'll have to keep investing in that.
All right, got to build the people who build the ships. Can't forget about that. And speaking of building, there's the whole geopolitical angle here. A bigger, more advanced MDL. It means a more powerful Indian Navy. What does that mean for India's role in the region and globally?
Now, that's where it gets really interesting. India's been quietly but steadily increasing its naval capabilities for a while now. And MDL's growth, it's a direct result of that. A stronger Navy means India can project power more effectively. They can protect their maritime interests, and they can play a bigger role on the world stage.
So MDL's success is tied to India's ambitions as a rising power. It's not just about ships, it's about a statement of India's growing strength at sea.
Precisely. And that statement goes beyond just military might. Remember that focus on green shipping we talked about? That's a sign of India's commitment to sustainability. They want to be seen as a responsible global player.
So it's not just about ships, it's about the story they're telling. A story of a technologically advanced, environmentally conscious India. An India that's ready to take its place on the world stage.
Yeah.
That's a powerful message.
It is, and it raises all sorts of questions. How will this newfound power be used? Will it lead to more stability or more tension in the region? What role will India play in shaping the future of the maritime industry?
Big questions, no doubt. And the answers probably won't be simple. But one thing's clear. MDL is a company worth watching. They're not just building ships, they're building the future.
Well put. And it's a future full of potential, but also uncertainty. How they handle the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead, it'll have a huge impact, not just on their own success, but on India's future as well.
Yeah, it's amazing how a company like this, MDL, becomes so connected to a whole country's ambitions. It's like their growth mirrors India's own rise,
It really does. Makes you think, what kind of impact will this have on the bigger picture, especially in the Indian Ocean region, geopolitically speaking?
Right, let's talk about that. A bigger, more advanced MDL means a stronger Indian Navy.
Yeah.
How does that change the balance of power in the region?
Well, as India's Navy grows, so does their influence. Their ability to, well, project power could shift alliances, partnerships, maybe even create new security arrangements as countries adjust.
So things could get more complicated. Maybe even a bit unstable as everyone figures out their place with a stronger India.
It's possible, yeah. And it's not just military power. Economics plays a role too. A stronger Navy means India can better protect its trade routes. Those are vital for their economy. That added security could make India a more attractive trading partner, boost their economic influence as well.
Right, so it's not just about showing force, it's about protecting trade, strengthening economic ties. But what about the risk of conflict? Could a more assertive India actually lead to more tension, maybe even war?
That's the big question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. A stronger Indian Navy could be a force for stability, deterring aggression, promoting cooperation. But it could also increase competition, maybe even escalate existing tensions depending on how it's perceived, and how India chooses to use that power.
A delicate balance, then. Too much force, and you're a threat.
Yeah.
Too little, and you're seen as weak.
Exactly. It's not just about capability, it's about intention. How India decides to wield its growing naval power. That'll have a huge impact on the whole region.
So MDL's success, it's about more than just building ships. It's about national ambition, strategy, maybe even reshaping the geopolitical landscape of the Indian Ocean.
Absolutely. And it shows how technological advancements, they're never isolated. They have ripple effects. They change industries. But also global dynamics, the balance of power.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening. We started with MDL's financials, their projects, and ended up talking about geopolitics and India's rise on the world stage. It's fascinating how all these pieces connect to reveal the bigger picture.
It is, isn't it? I think the takeaway for our listeners is this. Pay attention to MDL. Their story tells us a lot about India's ambitions and the potential shifts in global power. This story's still being written. The next few years will be key in deciding what role India will play in the world.
Well said. Gives us a lot to think about. Reminds us that business, technology, geopolitics, it's all connected. Understanding those connections is how we navigate this complex world. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We'll see you on our next deep dive, where we'll uncover more hidden connections and explore new frontiers of knowledge.